With the recent release of Blue Eye Samurai, I've done a lot of reflecting. As a man, I'm used to a male main character, and it's usually a given. But taking a step back, even for a second, it's easy to see that women are wildly misrepresented in the realm of animation. And when they are represented right in a good animation or anime, then it's a big deal. And no, this isn't a way to retract my last video. I had issues with the show that I went over, but I also barely discussed how good it was, and the fact that in general, when the show isn't Atla or a video game franchise, women in anime or animation are either portrayed as supermodels or the one that needs saving. Luckily, we've seen that change in recent years, and that is exactly what we needed. Netflix gets woman, to a point where the character is written so well that gender is no longer even part of the conversation. They are simply badass main characters.
I love the kind of woman that will actually just kill me.
I'm a film nerd above everything, but my favorite medium itself is anime, aka Japanese animation, and unfortunately I see issues in it to this day when it comes to gender. From the high-pitched voices to the way they're drawn, it's become a norm. Japan is not always sugoi.
This can't be real! Japan would never do that! I know from anime that Japan would never do this! Nandemo!
And I mean, it isn't just Japan, again, but it is what I'm most exposed to. The degenerate part of me used to accept it, but when I look at it from the other perspective, I wonder how long can we keep letting this rock? Animation was rarely progressive when it came to women until recently. But before those great works, I'll never forget when my sister told me about one of the first anime she was exposed to. She enjoyed it, but also noticed that the women's voices were really high and at times clearly over-sexualized. You mean the fan service? I'm just kidding. My genuine initial reaction was that I never thought about it like that. Whether it was fan service or the really high-pitched voice, I gotten pretty used to it. And I was like, oh, I mean, it's just animation, right? Not reality. There's bigger issues going on in the world. But then there's the other side to it. A lot of people seeing these works might be young and impressionable. Their exposure to women is likely to be one of the many stereotypes. And as someone who wants change personally and representation for brown men, because I'm sick of that shit. Like, why is Aladdin the best compliment? His best friend is a monkey. I get the perspective. When are women going to get their justice? Not only as a character, but the main character. Because yes, there are deeper issues going on in the world, ones that need our attention and any help it can get. But one of the worst habits people can get into is diminishing problems by bringing up larger scale ones. Instead, just acknowledge both and look towards solutions for both sides. But luckily, in the animation world, we got the badasses of Vi and Mizu. Arcane luckily got the coverage it deserved, but BES hasn't really. Again, I made a recent video on it, and it's my most disliked video to date. But I learned from it. I'm not stupid enough to just see the dislikes and think that other people are wrong, and that I'm the one that's right. Now, I do think some people missed my points. Like I said, she was a strong female lead. Run the clip. Oh, it had some amazing visuals as expected, and there was great character development. Started with a simple point of revenge against white men to stopping the trade of opium and guns, which was toxic to all citizens of Japan. I could get behind that. And even more, the voice actors killed it. Maya Escreen and Kenneth Branagh were unrecognizable. But my main focus of the video was on the negative of the show and flaws that I found. But whether I liked it or not, for other reasons that had nothing to do with gender, it perfectly executed the representation of a good main character that just happens to not be male. And that's exactly how it needs to feel. There's a difference between forced and natural representation, and Mizu and Vi were clearly the latter. Forced representation is when they try to throw it in your face. For example, if the main character is straight up telling you their issues of their struggling group, it's not wrong, but it's also not gonna reach the majority of people, especially the ones who don't understand the capabilities of your group. Characters like Mizu and Vi have another power to reach that uninformed kid who grew up watching strong male figures and never thought of the counterpart. and tell them that they could be just as good, if not better. So again, personally, I had my issues with BES, but whether I liked it or not, it's doing something powerful for the people that may come across it, both male and female. And like I did say in my last video, which I think some people might have missed again, it's objectively good. From the visuals to the overall great direction and then a great cast, this just builds up a legacy of great shows. Shows that can raise a generation to be better people. Now, since I focused on the negatives and complaints in my BES review, let's make this one positive. Let me talk about the stuff that I genuinely enjoyed. Visuals is the clear frontrunner. I mean, the colors is just
beautiful.
I'm currently studying film on the side in an attempt to become the next Greta Gerwig, and colors is one of the most underrated factors of film that makes it look all the better. Cinematography, the fancy word for what you're seeing on the screen, is essentially just moving art. One of my favorite cinematographers, Roger Deakins, started off as studying art, and it's clear why. Cinematographers create art with the light and the background and overall image on the screen, and BES was easily one of the best looking anime this year, even with the CGI. Now, as for the plot, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I preferred Akemi's arc overall. I thought she grew the most out of anyone. At first, she annoyed the absolute hell out of me. I mean, she chose this man out of anyone. Bro was broke and cheating on her, and she was a royal princess. And then she betrayed my guy, who was like the only person to look out for her. But she put herself out there into the average experience of a woman at the time. They didn't have the luxury of respect, and not only did she see that, but she learned from it. How to really take control, what it meant to have power, and to stop letting men take control of her. Akemi grew as a character from a delusional princess to a smart leader. Mizu to me was like Thorfinn in season 1, and people with revenge are just usually annoying. It makes sense that they're stubborn and arrogant, but I mean, they're a badass at the end of the day, so I'll accept it. There's a couple of things I almost forgot to mention. To start with, understanding Mizu's character is so much easier when you see her turning into an Oni/demon. It makes the show make more sense and also her character development. So shout out to that comment that pointed that out. I personally liked when it was grounded in reality, but there's a lot of good shows that start going into that supernatural and it makes it make more sense, so I'm not against that. And the second thing is when it comes to white men representation. I've seen complaints even in my own comments, but the thing you have to realize is the time period. If you're a current white man, this has nothing to do with you. And yes, at the time, British white men were conquering just about everything. It's history, so don't take it personal. Overall, BES was great, and I'm done undermining it like I unfortunately did in my last video. Yes, I have issues with it, but that's not the main point. And I'm gonna stop being a Scrooge for once and just appreciate it being great. The thing that really drove me into my last video and having this negative outlook is the ratings. There's one thing that bothers me, and Western animation is usually instantly praised in Western media. Now, if you just heard what I said, it makes sense. Because it's usually Western media, it's usually instantly praised. But I rarely see animation from Japan or just anywhere else really talked about or instantly praised in the same way that these Western animation are. Off of one season, it's really hard to praise a show this much, or at least for me to see something get praised this much when it's not even, near finished. But that's just a personal issue. Again, I'm not gonna let that overshadow how good BES was. It's still amazing, and I think it has every right to be praised. But again, I just wish that people would keep that same energy when it came to Japanese animation or even Chinese animation or whatever. But yeah, let me stop criticizing before this gets massively disliked again. Alright, so that pretty much does it for the video. I just wanted to thank you guys face to face. And I also wanted to briefly go over that this video is not an apology or a way to or a way to retract my last video. This is simply just me realizing that I went about something the wrong way. And I want to reiterate that because the likes and dislikes could mean less to me. Like you saw, my 95% channel average is what it's usually like, but that's not because I'm an agreeable person or I always do something positive. I mean, one of my earliest videos is me hating on a show, but if you actually watch the video, then you realize part of that was clickbait, and the second part was me simply explaining the thing I disliked about it. And that's what I did in my last video, but Again, I went about it in the wrong way, and this was a show that was already underrepresented, so I don't know why I went so hard on hating on it, and I reflected on that. I still have my issues, but I learned a lot about the show, and I feel like I had to make this video. Regardless, I make mistakes, you make mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. I think we'll move on from this, and hopefully you guys understand this video. Hopefully I am more understanding in this video than I was before. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I might see you in the next one.